on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm
You
Dylan.
say it with such gusto.
Thanks.
Like you're very excited to be here. Are you excited, Dylan?
I'm over the moon.
This is our last case in the month of February in Pennsylvania. We're going to be moving on to New York in March to discuss all of the New York cases.
Yeah, PA's been just kicking us in the face.
Crushing it, PA. No, it's been a pretty interesting couple of weeks. I feel like we've had some great cases, strange tales, and I have one for you today, Dylan, that's gonna fit the bill.
But wait, there's sponsors.
There are sponsors. Let's give a shout out to some folks who joined us at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. And they are sponsoring today's show. We have Natalie, Annie, Amber, and Christy.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support. And we hope that you find lots of fun content on patreon.com. Okay, Dylan, are you ready to get into today's case?
I am.
I have to admit, I think I'm hungover. I can't get my shit together today.
Oh my God, I think you got an edible hangover, maybe.
Miranda Camille Dean was born December 14th of 1994 in North Pole, which is a tiny town in Alaska near the Tanana River.
Yes, the Tanana.
That's
Very
not-
familiar with that area.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that really what it's called?
I have no
The
idea.
Tanana? Okay. The North Pole, that's a charming town, right?
Yeah, that's where Sandy's from.
That's what I thought.
It's true.
Her parents were Elizabeth and Sonny. They already had one daughter, Ashley, at the time Miranda was born. Miranda's Aunt Melissa and her Uncle Richard Fernandez moved down the street about 5 houses down when Miranda was a toddler. Richard had spent time in the U.S. Army. Elizabeth, the children's mother, had been very protective of her daughters, and she hadn't really allowed them to go many places or have overnights with friends or strangers. But now that their Aunt Melissa was living close by and their Uncle Richard, Elizabeth let the girls spend a lot of time over at Melissa's house.
Yeah, and if you have a parent who doesn't let you stay over, have sleepovers a lot, when you do get to do it, it's like the biggest deal ever.
It is.
It's going to be the best night. You're going to have like some candy and popcorn and movies and stuff. I want to go have a sleepover now.
Well, the girls seemed to really enjoy these visits with their Aunt Melissa and Uncle Richard. Richard appeared to be a kind man who liked entertaining his 2 young nieces. Miranda and Ashley began spending nearly every weekend at their aunt and uncle's home. For over a year, the sleepovers happened until young Miranda began complaining about physical pain she had, claiming Dylan her butt and pee-pee hurt.
Oh my God.
Now, her parents didn't understand what was going on with the child until Ashley finally told her mother about Uncle Richard's secrets. Elizabeth contacted law enforcement, and they launched an investigation into this man.
I go investigate that man's face with a ball bat.
Well, that's what's so scary is you take these steps to ensure your kids are safe, you protect them, you don't allow them to go spend the night at friends' houses.
Or strangers.
Or be around strangers, and then you find out it's someone who's a member of your own family.
And I think many times that is the monster that you don't realize is right there, someone you trust and they have access to your child. And it just really pisses me off.
Richard Fernandez was arrested and charged with first-degree assault of a minor. Miranda, in the words of the prosecutor, had been, quote, sodomized in every way imaginable. It was one of the most physically extreme abuse cases the trial judge had ever seen, and it happened to a girl whom the judge described as hardly more than a baby, according to the Anchorage Daily News.
See, this type of attack and assault on a child should come with a life sentence or death. I mean, seriously. I mean, I don't get it.
In 1998, Richard was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was let out after only serving 6 years. I know your feelings on this.
Well, it's always the molesters and shit that get let out early and rapists and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Some guy is with other consenting adults fucking with some drugs. They're going to catch 30 years, But you can go rape and, beat up a child multiple times and only do 6. Makes sense to me.
Then in 2011, he was arrested again for child pornography. He had also written a how-to manual called Fun with My Sister's Kids, explaining to men how they could abuse their young family members, and he used his own experience with his 2 nieces in the writings. It wasn't the first time Fernandez had been in trouble since the 1998 trial. After being released from jail, he continued to violate probation, had not found adequate employment, visited a pornography store, viewed pornography on the internet. So all these things that are in violation of his probation.
Right. I'm sure he's not supposed to possess anything, go anywhere, associate with anyone who's known to do that stuff. But that doesn't work with these guys.
He had used computers at church and a halfway house to view violating material. Finally, he was sentenced to 40 years in prison and, once released, must register as a sex offender. Now, after the original trial, the family moved to Wasilla, Alaska. You know where Sarah Palin was from?
Oh, that's what she has her rushes right there outside her backyard.
Exactly.
She can see it.
There, the family tried to settle down into a quiet, normal life with the 2 girls enrolling in school. Yet Ashley would recall her mother having strange men over while they were young, often ignoring the girls and leaving them home alone. Ashley was left in charge, though she herself was a young child. So though her mother had been particular about not letting the girls spend the night, young Ashley tells a different story that, well, my mom had men in and out all the time. We were neglected. I was left in charge of my little sister.
Yeah, that sounds quite different than the way the mom's painting the picture.
As Miranda grew older, the intense feelings bubbled under the surface. By the time Miranda was 12, the girl was experiencing nightmares and violent outbursts. Elizabeth tried to get her daughter help. Miranda began running away from home. It was after her first incident of running away that Miranda told her mother she had been working as a prostitute to support herself. This young 12-year-old girl. Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine what she's already been exposed to, not getting proper therapy for all this. And yeah, I can't imagine.
Miranda had also begun using heroin. And she's a child.
Well, for one, what 12-year-old can just go out and prostitute himself? That's the sick element. Who even is, having interactions with this kid? Because I'm sorry, 12, even if you look older, you look like you're 14, you're still there's no way I don't know that you're a kid. You know what I'm saying? And then just buy heroin. Just get heroin from the same fucking people, probably.
It's just terrible. Miranda had, as I mentioned, she had been using heroin. Her mother did take her to see doctors, and she was prescribed medications for schizophrenia, ADHD, and depression. However, Dylan, when we think about someone who's taking those medications that would treat like schizophrenia, ADHD, but then you're mixing those medications with drugs like heroin, I mean, that's not a good thing to be mixing. Not that it's a good thing to be taking heroin at all, but mixing it with these antipsychotic drugs.
What I find interesting here is one of the key components to like the MK Ultra program is abuse at a very young age that can fracture your personality, and then they, whatever, hypnotize and all that mess. And it seems to be, what she's been through. It's likely created these mental issues that she's having with the schizophrenia and stuff. Sorry about that.
During one of the times she ran away, Miranda claimed to have met a 25-year-old named Forrest who was a Satanist. Now, according to Miranda, he was her ruler. So now she's joined a satanic cult, after school club. Not quite sure what it is, Dylan. Miranda told her mother the man had branded her with a swastika on the back of her neck and also on the thigh, and she was to do whatever he told her to do. So I think you're onto something, Dylan. You've got this fractured, maybe mentality.
Yeah.
She's having these breaks that doctors have deemed could, be schizophrenia, and now she's claiming she's met a Satanist. He's branding her. He owns her.
Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a poor lost child who I don't think's ever felt safe with anyone. And she's just, looking for love and safety in all the wrong places.
But I also think we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to ask ourselves, does this Forrest person actually exist? Or is this part of Miranda's imagination?
Oh, her ruler?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Miranda's parents put her into a behavioral treatment facility for drugs and mental issues. She was in and out of the facility for the majority of her teenage years. At one point, Miranda told her mother she was pregnant. She shared with her mother the story that she had been drugged and tied to a bed in this house where these satanic cult members lived, and they performed an in-house abortion.
I just never thought I would hear those words put together.
Well, upon hearing the story, Elizabeth took her daughter to a doctor to be examined, but the doctor determined there were no signs of an ended pregnancy, nor were there signs that Miranda had been pregnant at all.
And I got to imagine you do a at-home in-house abortion. It's not going to be the most professional job. So I feel certain that a doctor would be able to tell that this has happened to you.
Right. Now, in 2011, Miranda became pregnant. She actually did become pregnant this time, Dylan. Sonny and Elizabeth had split up at this point, and it was especially hard on Miranda. Miranda said the child belonged to Forrest, the adult cult leader, and then said he was dead. But Elizabeth knew the child could belong to a number of men because her daughter had been running away. She was claiming to be involved in sex work.
Yeah. She's got abusers around every corner, so there's just no telling.
A court placed Miranda in the custody of her uncle Arlen Fletcher, who lived in North Carolina. By now, Elizabeth was also living in North Carolina. Sonny had moved to Texas. In North Carolina, Miranda gave birth to a daughter. The move was supposed to be a fresh start for the troubled young woman. She got a job working at a grocery store as a cashier and even signed up for some college classes. She attended her uncle's wedding and seemed to have a good relationship with his wife. So, by all accounts, her new life in North Carolina is going okay.
So, yeah, for her family there, this is probably good signs, right? She's got a regular job. She's, they're seeing her way more often, I'm sure. And she's just doing the normal thing.
Taking care of her baby.
Yeah.
Taking some college classes.
So, this probably gives everyone a sigh of relief. Yeah. Like, hey, maybe she's finally, maybe she's found her bottom. And let's help her stay on her feet.
Aria was born, and Miranda seemed to embrace motherhood. People said she doted on the baby, and she was always posting pictures of the child on Facebook. Then Miranda met a man named Elytte Barbour. Elf, as he was called by friends, had recently graduated from Triton High School in 2010. Others said Miranda was kind of weird and creepy. But for whatever reason, she's into him.
So everyone else thinks he's weird and creepy.
Yeah.
But Miranda's like, I think he's groovy.
Yes.
Okay.
He worked as a dishwasher at a local restaurant. And this is how Miranda kind of met him. So when she came to North Carolina, Miranda met a girl named Amy, who was also a pregnant teenager, going to be a teen mom. And since the girls had a lot in common, they became friends. Now, at the time, Elytte was Amy's boyfriend. So Miranda actually met Elytte through her friend Amy.
I'm sorry, it's Elf.
Exactly.
I was like, what now? You want me to call you what?
Amy would later describe her new friend as a Satanist who was preoccupied with sex. So it seems that Miranda's interest in Satanism and promiscuous sex has followed her to North Carolina. Elytte had been interested in Satanism as well, so he and Miranda kind of bonded over this, with Miranda introducing him to more information. At one point, Miranda told her mother that Elytte was not allowed to be on the panel because of Forrest, but Elizabeth, she wasn't sure what her daughter meant by the panel.
Wow.
So again, there's questions about whether this Forrest person actually exists, and if he really is running some sort of underground satanic cult. And what exactly is the panel? Is it like the Volatory or
the Politburo?
Whatever it was called in the Twilight movies?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Volturi or something.
It's basically
this panel.
All-powerful council that makes decisions for everyone in the Satanist community. The panel.
So we're not sure if Elf can join the panel.
So it must be odd for her to, be going along, kind of, seeming like everything's fine, and then you'll have these like bits of information that come from her that are pretty odd, and she doesn't really follow up with information. You know what I mean?
Right.
She kind of sprinkles that in, and I think this is someone who could be having disassociative events or whatever in their life.
Well, there's no doubt
Breaks from
that
reality.
Miranda is a deeply disturbed person. The relationship between Amy and Elf did not last. In March of 2013, the couple broke up, and it didn't take long for Miranda to start dating Elytte. By June, they were a couple. According to Amy, she didn't really have hard feelings about this relationship because she could see that Miranda and Elf's, they seemed to hit it off. They had a lot in common. She didn't want to be with him. She's like, hey, good for them.
Yeah, but then you're going to be like, what am I do with this airbrush tag that says Amy and Elle from Myrtle Beach with a unicorn on it?
Just hanging in your bedroom.
Just hang it in your memory closet.
In October, the pair eloped. They had only been dating about 5 months at this point. They quit their jobs and decided to move to central Pennsylvania to live with some friends. Elytte had some family residing in Pennsylvania as well, so it wasn't like the young couple didn't know anyone or that they were moving to a completely strange location with unfamiliar faces. A former roommate who lived with the couple early on when they moved to Pennsylvania described them as having an extreme interest in Satanism. Miranda kept a copy of the Satanic Bible under her bed. It was a topic of conversation quite frequently. They were really into the satanic imagery, the art.
It's weirdos. I was like, I want some of their stuff.
Miranda supported the couple by posting advertisements on Craigslist for men seeking companionship, because this is back in the day when Craigslist still had its adult section.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've just gotten with friends and we've just read like titles too, not even clicked on anything in the Craigslist whatever section you're in,
Oh, yeah.
And it is hilarious.
Some of them are funny.
Some of them are great.
Back in the day, they were great. I love the casual encounters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the misconnections.
Oh no.
The misconnections are hilarious.
I saw you walking around the corner of the coffee shop.
You wearing a red scarf at Trader Joe's. Me buying broccoli. Did we have a moment?
When you that was perfect.
I know.
Me squeezing the avocados, looking deep into your eyes. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Elytte didn't believe his wife was having sex with the men she was meeting online for money, and explained it was merely Miranda being paid for conversation.
Oh.
So you're paying for my time and my company, Dylan.
Yeah, so that's what I've been paying for all this time is your mouth? Damn. I didn't know that was an option.
Oh my gosh, will you stop?
Okay.
You're so bad. But she did have this history of prostitution. So I guess you do the math. Maybe she was just being paid for conversation. Maybe she was breaking off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. I don't know.
She does like to speak directly into the mic. I mean, what can you say?
During their relationship, Miranda and Elf discussed what it would be like to murder someone together. Apparently, Miranda was a big fan of American Horror Story and Dexter. She really enjoyed this kind of, horror and daydreamed about killing someone.
That's scary. A thrill kill, Someone has a serious conversation with you about have you ever give it serious thought about killing someone, And people can say these things offhandedly and catch people off guard, and they're like, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. But if they're in the least bit serious, that is not okay. And that is not good. That can lead to some very disturbing stuff.
Can it, Dylan?
I think so.
So you're saying that if life is a highway, you shouldn't take that side road?
No, you got to drive it all night long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Troy LaFara was an electrical engineer born June 20th, 1971 in rural Port Trevorton, Pennsylvania. LaFara attended Penn State for civil engineering and was a licensed engineer, land surveyor, and sewage enforcement officer.
Okay. Damn, what if he had a little badge?
LaFara was employed as an engineer with the Lycoming County landfill by Cummings and Smith. LaFara had dated Colleen Kenny since 2008, and after 8 years, they finally married in 2011. The pair had no children. Troy was described as an avid outdoorsman who enjoyed hunting. He was skilled in archery and shooting rifles. He spent a lot of time target shooting. That was his jam, Dylan. Throughout the month of October, Miranda was using Craigslist to arrange meetings with men. It was on November 1st of 2013 that one of those Craigslist postings would introduce Miranda to Troy. The post targeted men who, quote, didn't like their wives.
Okay.
And it offered companionship in exchange for money.
And I can talk to you, for 3 to 7 minutes we can talk.
Are there really that many men out there who don't like their wives that you could target them with an ad that says for men who don't like their wives?
See, she was ahead of her time. These are what they call these niche or these targeted ads, that are all the rage nowadays.
Oh, look, you're like a social media manager.
And they make a lot of money with that. And Miranda was doing this long before they even had a clue. So, but yeah, I guess I love my wife. So I can't relate to all these guys who don't like their wives that are answering this ad saying, hey, was this ad written for me?
Just for you.
Yeah.
It's just for you, Dylan.
How do they know I don't like my wife?
You're the most special man on the internet. You didn't know that?
I'm going to call this number and I'm going to find some of this companionship she keeps talking about.
I'm going to let her know I kind of like my wife. Okay. Troy agreed through an email exchange to pay $100 to Miranda for her, quote, services. It was 10 days later that Miranda decided to meet up with Troy in the parking lot of the Susquehanna Valley Mall, which is in Hummel's Wharf. Troy entered Miranda's vehicle. Now, little did he know, in the back, floorboard, in the back seat area, Elytte was hiding under a blanket. And then I'm thinking, he has to be a small dude, right? To be all crouched in the floorboard of the vehicle with a blanket on him.
Well,
and that no one would even know there's a human person back there hiding.
Well, yeah, because if I attempted the same move, it'd just be like, who's that fat guy with the blanket thrown over him in the third row seat?
It would be like
what?
This tiny baby blanket just sort of covering your gigantic head.
Just like half of my head.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm just looking at him.
I shouldn't make fun, but come on. He has to be very tiny.
Okay. In my mind, I'm like, is he security going to spring out if there's any trouble, or is he going to try to attack this man?
Well, let's get to it, Dylan.
Yeah.
On their way to the small city of Sunbury, Miranda allegedly told Troy she was only 16. He seemed unaffected by this news, then verbally indicated that he didn't care. Miranda and Elf had planned to use this as a test. They were looking for a specific reaction. Miranda was not surprised when Troy didn't mind, because she was accustomed to these Johns who are okay with her being underage, even though at this point she's not, but she's using this as a test.
I'm afraid that happens all the time. You're not going to find a real strong moral fortitude in some of these Johns. Some of them may be great guys.
he reached to touch Miranda's thigh. That's when Miranda spoke the words, "Did you see the stars tonight?" which was a signal to her hiding husband. That's when Elytte arose from the hiding spot with a cord in hand. He tossed the cord around Troy's neck and began strangling the man. Yet he wasn't pulling hard enough. We've talked about this before on the podcast, Dylan. Strangulation, whether it's with a ligature or manual,
Yes.
is a lot harder than it looks in the movies.
Yes.
Like, it takes some minutes.
And you got to be pretty strong.
You do have to be pretty strong.
And so he's throwing a full-on garrote around this guy's neck.
Essentially a garrote, yes.
Like something out of a damn movie, right? He comes up
Yeah.
out of the shadows in the
yeah,
back
like,
seat.
who are you, Luca Brasi from The Godfather?
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm sure, Troy, you're instantly going to go to flailing around and fighting for your life.
Yeah, so here's this tiny little dude who's able to hide in the back seat with his blankie, and nobody knows he's back there because he's like a sleeping toddler, who springs into action,
God.
starts trying to strangle this man. It's not working. Of course, Troy's fighting. That is when Miranda pulls out a knife and starts stabbing the man in the chest.
Oh, my
And
God.
she stabs him 20 times, Dylan. Overkill.
Yeah. So this is what they've been wanting to do. It's what they've been
Yes.
talking about, fantasizing about doing together.
So after the deed is done, we have Troy. He's slumped over in the front seat. He still has the cord around his neck after having been stabbed.
That's a horrible thing they did to him. And now he was engaging in some very questionable behavior, as far as
You're
getting
not allowed to point that out because then you're victim blaming, according to the internet. But yes.
Well, I mean, he was kind of douchey, but he didn't deserve this, is what I was going to say. He was making maybe some very questionable. He answered an ad that's targeted to men that hate their wives. Okay, so he's already
He's cheating on his wife.
cheating on his wife. He's doing dirty, grimy shit.
He's saying, "I don't care that you're underage."
Yes, which makes me just be like, you're a piece of shit, But he didn't deserve this. I don't think this is horrible what they done. This is a thrill kill.
Once the man was still, Elf got into the front seat with his wife. They drove around for a while seeking a location spot to dump the body. Before deciding on a residential backyard in Sunbury, they took Troy's wallet. After dumping Troy's body, the couple went to a store to buy cleaning supplies. They got bleach spray, towels, cleaning wipes, all purchased. There are receipts and CCTV cameras showing them purchasing these items. And then they worked together to scrub bloodstains from the passenger seat. After their team effort to clean the car, the couple drove an hour away to Harrisburg, where they ate a celebratory dinner, then went to a strip club. It was Elliott's 22nd birthday. The couple wanted to do something fun and thought the strip club would be a good time.
Good way to top the night off. You murdered a guy earlier, cleaned up the crime scene, and now you want to, get a lap dance.
I wonder where they had a celebratory dinner. Like the Cheesecake Factory, maybe?
Would that be like, or Panera? Would that be like, that's like upper crust to them, you think?
Panera.
Yeah.
They had a broccoli and cheese bread bowl. The following morning, a Sunbury resident found Troy's body lying face down in a small parking area between two garages at the rear of 240 Catawissa Avenue. The body was covered in blood, appearing as though the torso had been repeatedly cut. This is not something any person wants to stumble upon first thing in the morning.
No, this is horrible.
Or ever.
This is the bloody, murdered remains of someone.
Yeah.
It's not like if you just come on someone that's had like a health issue or even an accident, like an industrial accident or something, that's horrible and traumatic. But I think finding someone who's obviously been murdered would be maybe the most, one of the most traumatic things that could happen.
I think you're right.
I think it would be disturbing.
It would be very disturbing.
Carry it with you.
Especially if I hadn't had my coffee yet.
No.
Now, police began an investigation into the murder. State police stepped in to assist Sunbury officers in the aftermath of what the city's chief, Steve Mazzeo, called, quote, the worst murder I've seen during his 6 years in the valley. In the meantime, Elytte bought a diamond ring Zales.
Wow.
Yeah, from the money stolen out of Troy's wallet. Days after the crime, Miranda is posting photos of this diamond ring on Facebook.
What was it, like a $49.99 diamond ring? I mean, how much money did Troy have in his wallet?
Look, I don't know.
That's the thing about Zales.
I don't know.
You can get from a $50 to a $5,000 ring.
How do you know? Are
What
you
do you-
like the ring specialist?
Well, no, I'm just saying. I've seen the commercials.
You have?
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's like True Love starting at like $159.99.
yeah, through $2,999. I always
Yeah.
wanted that tennis bracelet.
You did.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'll get you a tennis bracelet.
Thank you.
Police began gathering evidence from a black 1997 Chevy S10 pickup truck owned by Troy, along with his residence at 106 North 8th Street in Sunbury, where the victim had resided with his wife. At the time, the LaFaras were remodeling the home, and it was unoccupied. The truck had been discovered at the mall in Hummel's Wharf. The video surveillance cameras in the parking lot were non-existent.
Nice.
Like, I think they actually had cameras, but they did not work.
Right.
So it's like, oh, can we have the footage? Oh, yeah, by the way, those are just fake. Which I'll never understand that. Why wouldn't you just spring for the real cameras?
Well, either if they did put up decoys or something, that's kind of goofy. But maybe it's a system that's in disrepair.
Maybe. So the police really didn't know initially why Troy would have been at the shopping mall. He hadn't said he needed to go to the mall. He didn't indicate this to anyone, not to his wife. So they were not really sure, like, how did he end up there?
So he hadn't told anyone he needed a new pair of white New Balance.
No.
Okay.
And he didn't strike me as the kind of guy who probably went to the mall a whole lot. So, yeah, maybe a little baffling. It would be like if they found your car at the mall. I'd be like, what?
At Ultra?
At Ultra?
Yeah.
Ulta?
Ulta.
Ultra. Ultra. Yes, Dylan, at Ultra.
At Ulta would be odd, right?
Exactly.
You'd be like-
But maybe you needed some new serum for your skin.
So they kind of have no, but what they don't know is Troy didn't really come to the mall, right?
Friends and family described Troy as, quote, a nice man with no enemies. There seemed to be no witnesses or suspects, but law enforcement officials didn't stop working the case. Police formed a murder task force to work out the details of the case, trying to find those witnesses, interviewing as many people as possible, canvassing the area. They're sifting through clues, sources, and leads. Police are able to learn that Troy was known to frequent gentlemen's clubs and adult social media sites known for arranging meetings and dates with consenting adults. So they do find this information out. Troy likes the adult friend finder.
Yes.
Do you remember when that used to pop up constantly on like Yahoo and shit?
No.
I remember these ads that would be like adult friend finder, and I'm like, I don't want friends. What makes you think I want adult friends?
Who would create this thing that finds people I don't want to talk to?
I just remember it popping up and being like, what the fuck is this? I don't want your friends.
So they're quickly kind of realizing that Troy is into this thing, and this likely is what led him down this path. He met someone. I mean, you know, they've got to be thinking that very quickly.
Well, they are able to determine, Dylan, that Troy's contacts, among his cell phone contacts, were many performers in the adult entertainment industry.
Ah, like sword swallowers, fire eaters.
Fire eating is awesome.
Yeah, I know. So sword
I
swallowing.
want to get into doing the fire tricks. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can just sit there and watch you do it.
I don't want to swallow a sword or eat glass or a light bulb. That seems dangerous.
Ah, you don't want to be a blockhead.
No.
Hammer shit into your
Yeah,
nose.
that doesn't seem fun.
Okay.
Right? But like eating fire, that seems fun. Clues were discovered in the victim's cell phone, in which Miranda gave him explicit details about who she was, along with these arrangement plans, where we're going to meet, what we're going to do.
I suspected that she was not going to be very sophisticated in this arena. You know, like not even thinking about the fact that these messages and everything's going to be left over in a digital trail. Okay.
It didn't take long for police to arrest her on December the 3rd. Initially, Miranda denied knowing Troy at all. When presented with the evidence of the last known call, which was placed on his cell phone to her, she could not deny the relationship much longer. So pretty quickly, it's like, man, you're discovered here. We got you.
He calls
Surprise.
you, contacts you, and then all of everything stops. His digital trail ends. You know what I mean? He didn't go on and make other calls, no other contacts with anyone. So it's pretty obvious that you were likely the last person to talk to him.
Yeah.
And maybe if you did something to him, that's why okay.
So after this, Miranda claims the murder had been self-defense. She said Troy had tried to sexually assault her, and the murder had been to protect herself. 3 days after Miranda's arrest, her husband, Elytte, was picked up by law enforcement. The couple was charged with first-degree murder, and they pled not guilty. Eventually, Elytte and Miranda confessed to police they had been plotting to kill someone for months. The affidavit revealed the couple's desire to bond over the killing of a person. They really thought that crime could somehow bring them closer together. Like this modern-day Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. I mean, these are great relationship goals.
Yeah, it's like natural-born killers. They've seen the film too many times.
Yeah.
The newlyweds wanted to kill before, but none of the other attempts had been successful. So Troy was not the first, victim. Like, they had other folks picked out, and they tried to carry out their plan, but it didn't work.
Yeah, it's like Elliott's like just hanging on him, trying to strangle him and stuff, and they're just like batting him off of him because he's like this little twerp. Is he a twerp?
I mean, he kind of looks like a twerp. The couple seemed to time Troy's murder around their 3-week wedding anniversary. Police were shocked to learn the young couple had so callously gone out to celebrate Elliott's birthday afterwards, and they were pretty confident a jury would find this damning as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just makes you look callous and cold. You know, it's not going to help.
In interviews to police, Miranda alleged she would have allowed Troy to go had he responded appropriately to her statements about being underage. It seemed Miranda had a pretty skewed view of the justice system, which she felt had failed her years earlier. So she almost views herself as this like vigilante justice bringer.
Okay.
Like Dexter. Like she thinks she's Dexter. Miranda told Newsweek in an interview that the justice system was supposed to protect people, but it hadn't protected her. She used her uncle's abuse as an example of the dysfunction and as an excuse for her own behavior. Miranda told police that Troy wasn't the first murder she'd committed. Now, this is where things get a little crazy, Dylan.
Okay.
Then Miranda went on to suggest she had killed between 25 and 45 victims, which would make her a fairly prolific serial killer.
Very.
Right?
I mean, Sam Little and, a couple others, other people going to have more bodies than her.
Miranda even told law enforcement maps could be drawn up. Like she could draw up these little maps, sketch them out to show where she had buried victims, like all across the United States.
Yeah, and just even some in South America.
She claimed the murders were relative to her being in the Satanic cult and that she wanted to punish people who took advantage of minors.
She was in a Satanic bicycle club, and they went from like down in Guatemala to Canada, like this long trip.
Like a journey.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they just killed people along the way.
Maybe. I mean, that would be the next step in this salacious story, right? So here's Miranda claiming, I've murdered up to 45 people because I'm part of the Satanic cult, and I've punished people who are perverts, essentially. Miranda saw herself as this vigilante hero, never seeming to realize what she had done or the extent of it, never had remorse, just, I did it.
In her mind, it was okay what she did, basically.
She's totally justified.
What's the big deal? I did it to these types of guys. We were in these situations. And I don't even really see that I did anything wrong. So
now the police, they have to figure out if Miranda Barbour is a serial killer. The confessions drew a lot of media attention, who of course sensationalized elements of Satanism and Miranda's interest in the TV show Dexter.
Satanic elf.
Law enforcement agencies were contacted in places she'd lived, but none of her stories seemed to check out. According to Alaska state troopers, there was no evidence that Miranda was tied to any murders in that state, and they didn't have any knowledge of a murderous satanic cult.
So she's telling these big stories that if any of them were true, they should be able to confirm some of the information.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Miranda's relatives also denied any knowledge or belief that she had murdered others. Her mother, Elizabeth, pointed to the sloppy nature of Troy's murder and how easily Miranda had been caught. Her sister Ashley agreed that the crime was very amateur and that there had been no way her sister could have murdered 45 other people.
This is their way of saying they're too dumb to have murdered 45 people and gotten away with it. Because they would literally like come stand in front of the police station with the blood on them from their victims.
Yeah, Dylan, I think you might be onto something.
Yeah.
Sonny, Miranda's dad, felt differently. He knew there had been many times his daughter had run away for extended periods and was unaccounted for, suggesting that maybe it was not impossible that Miranda had murdered before. Because she had run away, she had been gone, they didn't know what she was up to, what she was doing.
Well, honestly, I don't think it's impossible for her to have been put in some other very odd situations. And maybe someone had gotten harmed or even killed, you know. There may be moments when she really felt like she was defending herself from harm or someone trying to kill her.
It almost,
So, I mean,
in a way, reminds me of Eileen Wuornos.
well, of course, I'm sure everyone out there, or a lot of people, have that kind of pecking around the back of their brain because of a few things that you've said. It certainly made me think of her and her situation. But I don't know. You know, you always get, a lot of times you get people that are a little bit sympathetic for Eileen. Because, I don't know, there's a lot.
she had a very horrific
She had a
childhood.
horrific. My mom actually was telling me she was in watching some show that did a like deep dive about her childhood and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff in there I never heard.
Oh, it was brutal.
And
She was very abused.
she just didn't have a chance.
No, Eileen Wuornos is one of those people who truly didn't stand a chance. And the fact that she kind of made it as far as she did in life without serious trouble, and
was yeah.
I mean, it's impressive that she made it as far as she did, because she really, I mean, the poor thing.
But yeah, this girl, I don't know that. I don't know.
I mean, I feel for Miranda. She's obviously had a lot of trauma in her life.
She did.
And lives with those issues, obviously. But you can feel sorry for the child, but you don't have to feel sorry for their criminal behavior.
Well, I gotta say, if everyone who was sexually abused went out and did this, reacted this way, or turned into this type of person, there will be a whole lot of murderers out there, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
a lot of people live with it and certainly don't go down this path.
Both of her parents described Miranda as a manipulative liar. Sonny said his daughter lived in a fantasy world where things happened in her head, but not necessarily in reality. He described Miranda as being selfish and desperate to be the center of attention, which was often a motivator in her actions. So, like the negative, we see this with kids, the negative behavior. Even if they're getting negative attention, they just want to be the center of attention. It doesn't matter how they get the attention. In interviews, Sonny and Ashley told the media if the state chose to pursue the death penalty in the case, they would support that decision. Her family passionately believed Miranda should face punishment for her crimes. So, you know, this is not a family who's enabling her. I mean, they're like, she definitely deserves to be punished for what she's done.
So this isn't the Bolton family who will reach out to friends for help clean up the murder scene of their son.
You mean the Bolden?
Bolden.
People may not have listened to the news, the midweek yet. Friends of Miranda's stated that she was involved in a group, but it was more of a gang than a satanic cult when she was in Alaska. During one stint in rehab, Miranda told a friend named Alex about the gang and that it was mostly ran by men. So this whole cult gang story, it was not new. It was not like she just told this to police. Like, she had been telling people for years that she was part of this group.
Right.
Now, whether it's a gang, it's a cult, what have you.
Well, I think it comes
we don't know.
down to perception. And that's maybe what she perceived it to be. Because, I mean, she seems to have some rather significant issues.
She had talked to a reporter about several bodies being dumped in Big Lake near Wasilla, a man being murdered by a pier in Mexico Beach, Florida, and body parts thrown from a car near Raleigh, North Carolina. Yet none of these murders have been verified. Elytte, however, believed his wife was telling the truth. He told a BBC reporter, quote, "I fully believe she killed these people. I always told everybody I thought Miranda was possessed. We called her Super Miranda, referring to a person Miranda would take on when she was, quote, possessed. Elytte suggested it was a demon who made Miranda capable of anything."
We called her Super Miranda.
No. That's all I can think of as Super Mario. Yeah.
Yeah.
Others have suggested that Super Miranda is an identity that she formed to cope with the sexual abuse. Super Miranda has been called defiant, powerful, and enjoys controlling men. She's a killer. Maybe she is an offshoot of like a schizophrenic.
I think she could have
disorder.
I think she could have dissociative personality disorder.
In a BBC documentary, Miranda said she killed Troy so her daughter could be adopted and given a better life than Miranda could provide. So it was all part of her master plan to get her daughter in a better home situation.
Oh, it's no different than the hobo that throws a brick through the glass of a business window because it's cold outside and he wants a warm bed.
And 3 squares.
Yeah. Okay.
On September 18th of 2014, the murder trial began in North Cumberland. Apparently I can't type. North Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. At 19 years old, Miranda was ultimately found guilty of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, robbery, and possession of an instrument of crime. She received a life sentence along with her co-conspirator, Elytte. Miranda was sent to a state women's prison in Lycoming County. Miranda has spoken from prison about the regret she feels losing custody of her daughter and not being able to be with her husband. Yet she has expressed little remorse or guilt for her role in killing Troy. Miranda continues to justify the murder, suggesting she saved other young girls from being abused by him. In June of 2016, Miranda filed for divorce from Elf. Behind bars, Miranda reads and spends time writing to male pen pals.
Oh, wow.
A freelance writer named Jill Burke, who covered Miranda's story for 4 years, said, quote, "It's much easier to vilify a satanic, sinister femme fatale who acts callously and without remorse and takes a life than it is to try to rain justice down on someone who's mentally ill and has been the victim of child sex abuse. As a society, we like to believe in good and evil, but it's just not that simple."
All right. Well, I think this is one of many times you can point to the mental health systems here in our country. If it was readily available and more openly talked about, not just, nowadays we talk about mental disorders, but we don't talk about getting help. You know, it's like we just want to talk about it instead of how can we make ourselves better. So yeah, if she had a opportunity to get help in therapy in her younger life, very well could have maybe not went down this path.
Well, you know, she did. She did undergo psychiatric treatment. It just seemed like it was ineffective, or she needed more intense treatment program options. I'm not sure. And the thing about serial killers, though, they're psychopaths, and you really can't believe anything they say. So it's kind of hard to know about Miranda.
That's true.
Is her version of events, and he was a pervert. That's why I killed him. I mean, is that the truth? Is this something she's dreamed up? Has she murdered others? I mean, it's just really hard to know when she's being honest.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, Troy got in the car thinking of some more normal, interaction with a sex worker. Which, I mean, again, that's, infidelity. If he's cheating on his wife and all that, that's grimy. But you certainly don't deserve to be murdered like that.
No. Ashley Dean took to Dr. Phil's TV show to say Miranda's childhood was responsible for the problems she had in life. Ashley said, quote, "My mom made Miranda the way she is." Ashley went on to say that Elizabeth was a very bad mother. There were emails in which Miranda described her mother as a, quote, pill-popping drunk, and Ashley agreed her mother had issues with drugs and alcohol. So regardless, it's clear that Miranda was a young woman with many problems. And it's just a really sad story to think that she's ruined her life. Elliott's life is ruined. Their daughter
What's one of those situations?
is growing up without a mom.
No, yeah.
She suffered all of this abuse over the years. That's obviously, it's really affected her. And the whole story is just very tragic. And then we have a man who loses his life.
Well, it's one of these couples, you get them together, and they can end up in trouble together.
The madness of two.
Feeding off of each other.
Filet au deux.
And a little elf, he looked like a little dweeb.
A little elf.
I bet he did probably try. He probably tried to kill 2 or 3 other guys, and they thought he was like playing or some shit, and they were just kept like batting him off like you do like a 3-year-old,
They were like, "Can you come get your little brother?"
Come on, man. I've had enough of this guy tonight, Keeps trying to pull on my arm and stuff. My arm's getting tired. He's like holding his arm. Elliot's hanging off of his arm, feet off the ground. All right. So thank you again for today's sponsors. You can join them over there at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast and access all the incredible ad-free and extra content.
That's true, Dylan.
Wow.
You got it all out.
I've been practicing
correctly in the first try. I love it.
I love it too. Thank you for that story. Thank you for our visit here in PA, and we'll continue our
road trip.
Our road trip.
Yeah.
Into New York.
Yeah, we have some really exciting cases to discuss in New York.
Can't wait for that. And Heather almost has an incredible listener stories episode ready. So if you have one you want to sneak in there, we cannot wait to do that. We always enjoy that. You can send those to mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
Love your enthusiasm.
Wow,
Dylan.
I feel very fucking professional today.
Man, and I'm telling you, when we get into New York, we have got some wild cases, and we are going to cover a serial killer case. So we've got a very detailed serial killer case coming up.
Oh, I can't wait. We haven't had one of those in a
Yeah,
while.
I mean, we haven't really had a good in-depth serial killer study for a bit. So
yeah, baby.
not since Dahmer, right?
Lay it on me.
So I'm excited, Dylan.
Yeah.
It'll be a good one.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, I'm still kind of high. I'm gonna go and try to get my shit together.
She's gonna take a nap.
Bye.
Bye.